What's going on? Another video. I'm doing these things pretty consistently. Pretty happy about that. As I'm sitting here waiting for gear to arrive, I just now got a notification that DHL has dropped off a package for me on the corner, so I'm gonna go and pick it up from the locker over there as soon as I'm done recording over here. But today, what I wanted to share was something pretty interesting. The background on it first, just quickly, is that I don't consider this hobby to be just about the images. I was watching some video from Trevor Jones, Astro Backyard, and he was talking about how it's all about the images and stuff. And you watch him and you're like, it's not all about the images. This guy loves his gear. He loves the setup. He probably loves the whole process. And maybe it was an older video, so I'm sure he would dispute. But he said it in that one video, and I was like, you know what? For me about this hobby, it's so much more than just the ability to capture an image. I have for, 10 months now, I feel like I've been participating in the hobby, even though I just got the telescope. I just got all of the gear. I haven't even looked through it yet. Haven't taken it outside. It's not dark enough here in Helsinki. And for me, the hobby is all of this planning, all of the gear, all of the process, of course, then of taking it outside, capturing an image, bringing that data back in, and putting it all together. There's so many pieces to what I consider interesting parts of the hobby. And today what I wanted to do is share one of those things, probably the most comprehensive thing that I have put together over the last many months. I was looking today. It's a document of all of the deep sky objects that I hope to eventually capture. And as you can imagine, it starts with looking at beautiful pictures and seeing what it is I would like to capture. But then it expands from there. What does it take to capture that? What do you need to know? What is the time frame that's even possible to capture an image of the target that you're thinking about? So, and of course, there's a bunch of information besides that, but where do I find all of that information? Where do I save all of that information? That was sort of where I started with all of this. It didn't require me purchasing anything to start learning. So I created a matrix for myself that looks something like this. So this is the most evolved version of a document that I created entirely by hand. Originally, it was just a name of objects on the left-hand side in that object column, that B column there. That was the only thing that existed. And then I started opening up all of the Wikipedia pages. Some of them don't have Wikipedia pages because they're, I guess, not so popular, but I found them to be interesting. Some of the designations weren't such easy ones, like the M's for Messier objects, or the NGC catalog. Some of them are a little more obscure. A lot of them, well, not a lot, but many of them have data that's just not there for me to find. For example, if we're looking here, we see Iris Ghost Nebula here. This is only in the Iris catalog. There's no information about distance or apparent magnitude or any of these kinds of things. So some of this stuff is quite difficult to find. And so there's no way I'm going to memorize any of this. And there are quite a few objects in this listing. I'll get down to that red section in a moment. So basically, I started with a list of names, things that I would discover looking at Instagram photos, going on AstroBin and seeing beautiful photos that other people have uploaded, and saying, you know what, that would be a really beautiful object. I think I'd love to see that for myself, or I'd love to image that for myself at some point. So, of course, that's how we start the list. And then you go in and start looking up Wikipedia pages or whatever other sites. Most of it is Wikipedia in this particular diagram matrix. It's pretty much all Wikipedia pages. And just finding out what information I thought is important for me to know. Google Sheets does not play well when you have a plus or a minus at the beginning of these cells, so I added the letter D here, but other than that, that's the proper declination. Eventually, I learned that anything below minus 20 degrees, so 20 degrees south, would not be visible to me here at 60 degrees north. Maybe just above the horizon. Some of them come just above the horizon, but so the visual, the apparent magnitude is here. The distance is something that I just thought was pretty interesting. I wasn't sure if it was going to be important or not. It's not really so important in terms of shooting anything, or at least I don't know, or it seems that it's not so important. More important is the size across the sky and these kinds of things, and that's not in here currently in this view. What else I've done here is I've added what constellation it's a part of. So, well, not necessarily a part of, but where it's located in the sky. It's located in the general area of this constellation. And that, again, is sort of nice to know. I've got a go-to system. I have Stellarium and all of these other kinds of things that are going to help me find the individual objects. I have the declination. I have the right ascension. But the constellation is interesting. So I would like to know what those constellations are. I don't have any of them memorized, but eventually. So originally I was hoping that I would end up with my ideal telescope, which was the Explorer Scientific 127 to 952, 127 aperture, 952 focal length, ED, apochromatic refractor. Kind of fell in love with it. I noticed that both Trevor Jones from Astro Backyard and Chuck from Chuck's AstroPhotography, both of those guys were using them at some point. And if you go on AstroBin and you look up anybody's pictures taken with that scope, they're amazing. Not to say that I believe that the tool is going to create those amazing photos, but that the tool's not going to get in the way of all of the human error and learning that I would need to do in order to be able to take those photos. So that was my favorite scope for many, many months. And so that ended up being how I would calculate whether or not something was possible to image or to see. And then, of course, I did some of the math for the F ratio with a 3 times Barlow or a 0.5 times reducer. Now, these are both irrelevant at this point because I got myself a Newtonian. So there are no reducers unless I wanted to get another, I guess, field flattener, coma corrector rather. And they are very expensive to get good ones, so I'm not getting a second one. And so there's no reduction. It's just going to be the 1,000 millimeter focal range. And then I have also a 2 times Barlow. So none of this math helps me in any way. And then later in this document, I've added the exposure time I would plan, the ISO I would plan, the HA frames, the sulfur and the oxygen frames. The idea being here that I would shoot with the with narrowband filters for those particular bands of light. And then, of course, there's dark frames and flat frames and bias frames and dark flats, and then planning nodes. And my intention was that I would just use this to plan how many of each of these things I would need for specific targets, one at a time. So there's other variables that come into play besides this particular target needs X dark frames and stuff. It's like, what camera do you have? What's the seeing like? There's so many variables to it that I would just go one at a time. There's some base numbers put in here, randomly found on somebody's blog post about what they said were halfway decent. I think maybe even these are Trevor Jones from Astro Backyard. I think some of these numbers come from him on some blog he has. So you can see I was creating a matrix here of everything I would need to understand about a particular target and plan it. So, well, I guess the first learning was very sad. The first learning I had was that my absolute favorite target, the Tarantula Nebula, sits at minus 69 degrees south. So not minus south, but 69 degrees south. Oh, I can't see, or maybe I could see something that's 20 degrees south. I definitely cannot see anything that's 69 degrees south. There's no way I'm ever going to see that from where I am, unless I could look directly through the bottom of planet Earth. So very sad. It was my number one target, which also then brings me, I probably should have prefaced this, to my interest level. I've separated them by quarter, obviously. That's something I added later, but then also my interest level, and then prioritized these by interest level in each of the quarters. And the reason I did that is that, for example, if I wanted to capture the Eagle Nebula, and the Eagle Nebula was available for me to capture, and the Whirlpool galaxy was also available for me to capture, I'm going to prioritize the Eagle Nebula simply because it's got my interest more. Eventually, I will have captured, I hope, the Eagle Nebula, and then I can move down to the Antenna galaxies. I can move down to the Black Eye Galaxy and Cigar and Red Square Nebula, which later found out is also pretty much impossible. But anyway, that's the idea. So that's pretty much all of the information here. The visible dates are wrong. I found that also out the hard way. So what I ended up doing, and this is where I'm going with all of this very long, drawn out video. What I ended up doing was taking one at a time each one of these objects and dropping them into Telescopius. Telescopius is a wonderful site. Part of what they offer is the telescope simulator. And that's what we're looking at here. And what I have programmed in here is I have my Sigma lens, which is on my Nikon D7200. It goes from 18 millimeters to 300 millimeters. I've only put in 18 and 300 because obviously you can only select one at a time. If I plan on shooting at 200, maybe I'll add it in here, but I didn't want to clog this up. But then I have the TS Optics Newtonian photon over here, and actually Explorer PDS is when I thought I was going to end up with the Skywatcher, so I should rename this, but either way the numbers are correct. And then I have my 2x Barlow, and so in here you can see what that looks like and do some planning. But even better than that is that they have lists. So of course what I ended up doing is going in here and taking all of my Q1 objects and creating a Q1 targets list, and Q2 and 3 and 4. And then after I had created those, I also added a list for new targets. And the problem with finding new targets was that I didn't have all of the information that I wanted in order to be able to add them specifically to Q1, Q2, 3, and 4. So I created a fifth list, which is just new targets. And then I learned, that I was wrong about those dates when they are visible. The visible dates were totally wrong. I dropped them in here, totally wrong. And now I have 5 particularly useless titles, but all of the objects, pretty much almost all of the objects that I'm currently interested in. So that was great. my human error does not negate the fact that this is a wonderful website with wonderful tools. I can't believe how much information is here and how well organized it is. So in here, I was able to learn the hard way that you should probably know when things are in opposition. You should know the times of year that you can see them, and you can do that by messing around with the calendar option on the left. And you can also download as a CSV. And when you download as a CSV and you do a little bit of design work to your layout and add a few links, then you suddenly have a much nicer list with much better information. And what I was able to create here is obviously the designation is, in most cases, it's a combination of the object name and one of the most popular designations. I didn't put in all of the designations for every single thing because why? It's just me and it's just for me. So I'm putting in what I think is useful for me. Then I have the opposition date for every object. Then I have the start of the window of opportunity and the end of the window of opportunity. I had this combined. It was like this is the range. But what I'm going to show you after this is, it's going to explain why I didn't just combine them as like, this is the range. So starting the window of opportunity and ending the window of opportunity of when a particular object is available for me at 60 degrees north here in Helsinki. I also sort of shaved things off a little bit. If something has a very large window of opportunity, I completely cut the sides off. So a threshold where something else that is a little bit more challenging to capture, that space where it's above the horizon, it's capturable, but it's not opposition. I might have kept it for some objects, and then for other objects, just totally hack them off because there's a whole month or 2 months where it's like high in the sky for a long period of time and you can capture it. So it's for me to know, like, if I want to capture this is more of an ideal window. So take it with a grain of salt. There's probably a little bit of wiggle room in things. One other note is that all of this is between August 27th and April 16th. And the reason for that is I live in Helsinki. The sun comes up, it goes below the horizon, so technically it sets. But for all of those other months, it's bright enough here where we don't have actual astro dark. It's just too light to do anything. There's a little bit of wiggle room in there, give or take a couple of days, but in reality, August 27th, that's the date I'm waiting for, and ending on April 16th, right in the middle of galaxy season, which sucks, but it is what it is. So that's the window of opportunity. Then I've added manually, actually I added both the start and the end of the opportunity window manually. I've added so there was a type headline, but it didn't export with any information. I don't know if that's something that I should have looked into in Telescopius. Like, is there some setting that I can adjust what the type is? But either way, I just went and added. I think there's a few missing. Yeah, a couple missing, but mostly I've added all of them, what type of object it is. Again, we have the constellation, we have the right ascension, we have the declination. The apparent magnitude is, again, I have most of it. I don't have all of them. I have everything that I had already recorded. What I don't have are objects that I added that were new since creating that original document. So if it's not in here, then it's not in here yet. I'm going to add it though. I've got to do my research there. Then a whole new column, and this one did come out of Telescopius, thank you, is the apparent size on the sky. This is something I was really trying to understand for a long time when you can't see something and you're trying to plan it and you're like, do I need a Barlow lens? Do I need, of course you want to be able to understand what you're shooting. You want to be able to frame it. You want to know what's going to be around it. Are there bright stars? Are there cool things to capture in the background? So there's more to it than this. It's a little bit of a simplification, but understanding if something is really, really tiny on the sky, or if it's huge on the sky, or somewhere in between. So getting that apparent size, so helpful. We have the max altitude. That also came out of Telescopius. So I've labeled, in this document, I've labeled some things orange and red. If it's red, it's got to travel. If it's orange, I can try. And then there's 3 options I've set for session location. Now, session location, total column I totally added manually. There's 3 options. There is the rooftop, which is across the hallway behind me onto the roof of the building that I live in. That's where I'm going to shoot most often. The second option is my wife's family's summer house, also known as Mökki. So that's why it says Mökki there. And that is, so right now I'm in Bortle 8, Bortle 9 skies. The summer house is in Bortle 4. So to me, that is a dark sky site. Bortle 4 to some people might be like, way too bright. To me, it's incredibly dark. So that's the dark sky site that I have regular access to. I can drive there in an hour, hour and a half, and that is wonderful. So if I think that something is going to be difficult, it's going to be just a little bit above the horizon, I definitely don't want to be shooting across the city. I'm going to go to the Mökki to get it. Then there's the third location. The third location is south. Wait, which way is south? That's south. So the third location is south. If there's an object that I know I can't shoot, but I have to have on this list, and I think that maybe one day if I'm traveling south into Europe, whatever it might be, I'm going to leave it on here, wishful thinking, and then it just says south. And so let me see here if there's Mökki rooftop, and then I guess at the bottom is going to be the souths. Yeah. So these guys, they're just, there's no window of opportunity for me. So this is their maximum altitude. Here it's too low. So I just need to go a little bit further south for those. Or like the Tarantula Nebula, way south. So that is the data that I had here. And then what I would like to show is the priority. So in the priority column here, if it has a number, it came across from the original list. If it doesn't have a number, it's not because I hate it. It's still on my list. It's just I haven't looked at it yet. I've also changed a little bit of my thinking about how I feel about these particular objects. So I'm probably going to go through and reprioritize those which already have a number, and then also at the same time probably add my prioritization of those that don't have a number. I made the prioritization list not so that there's like only number 1, only number 2, so there's just this one object. There are several objects that are number 1, several objects that are number 2. It's not supposed to be a rank. Originally, I had broken it into 4 sections, 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 through 15, 16 through 20. My process for creating those groupings was I had no way of categorizing any of them other than I like this picture, I don't like that picture. So I just grouped like, these are all really cool. These would be fun. Those I really like. And these, I think maybe they're going to be difficult. Maybe they're so popular that I don't want to mess with them right away, or whatever it is. Everything on the list are things that I like. All of them are things that I want to capture at some point. And so then once they were broken up into 4 different sections, then I took each section and I tried to rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So in those groups. And then that's how I ended up. So you'll see in here that there are several priority ones. In fact, I can show you right now. There are 4 pillars of creation. I know. Eagle Nebula. Is that not the same? Well, depends on how many Barlows you have stacked. Virgo cluster. God, the Virgo cluster. What an amazing target. Okay, yeah, I'll talk about that later. And then the glowing eye. Glowing eye is amazing, but tiny. If I remember correctly. Yeah, it's tiny. It's measured in arc minutes here. So, yeah. And then there's no number 2s here. The number 2s obviously all ended up being items that were not visible in the north after I realized. So what does all of this mean? Well, I decided that rather than just keep this to myself, I wanted to share the information. So I wanted to create this video and explain my thinking and how I created all of this, what the thought process was. That's why I'm showing you the outdated version and the evolution of that, and also my process. Is this the right way to do it? I don't know. It's the only way I know how to do it right now. And it seems to me to be a fun process to go through all of these, find the information and learn as much as I can. I didn't know what right ascension was or declination when I started. Now I do. I didn't know what apparent size or the apparent magnitude were. Now I do. And all of that comes from doing this kind of research. So then how do I share this? I create a video, tell people about it. And I also bought AstroPhotographyPodcast.com. So I'm going to start rebranding these videos and everything in the future as AstroPhotographyPodcast.com, a beginner's journey. Should I have prefaced that with, hey, big announcement? No, probably not. The thing I'm really concerned with is that there's already an astrophotography podcast with Trevor Jones, like the most influencer, popular dude in astrophotography. They didn't buy the URL. So I'm definitely not trying to step on his toes. It's just a great URL. I bought it. And I'm definitely not calling this astrophotography podcast because I don't want to step on their toes. In fact, I want to do everything I can to make sure that they have a good long career because I'm learning from them. But anyway, a beginner's journey continues. This is the website. I'm going to be doing a lot of work to it. I don't know. I've made it pretty cheesy. I was having a lot of fun with it. Crazy fonts and these kinds of things. But right now, what I wanted to show you is Sam's DSO matrix. So this is the list of deep sky object targets that you saw. Now, the evolution of creating those things. It's a comprehensive list of the targets that I'm interested in and their information. This is my matrix here. Oh yeah, forgot to mention Stellarium. No, I think I mentioned that at the top. Anyway, great tools, great resources. I'm adding a key to this so that I can explain in writing pretty much everything I just explained to you in the video. Maybe I'll just paste the video. So I'll put that in there so that you can see when you get here, you can understand what all of these things are. And this has sorting attached to it, so you can, if you want to sort my session location, maybe I'll take that part out. I don't know. If you want to sort by any of these types of things, you can. You just come here and you click. So designation, I'm not sure of the name of that particular object. Oh, maybe I'll find out. Maybe you can tell me. If there's anything in here that says like, I'm not sure of the name, please let me know what the name is if you know what it is so that I can update it. More than happy to have as much help as possible. I'm very excited that once I get the numbers in here, that it won't be from the bottom up. These are not all my favorite and they're not forgotten. If you scroll down, then you can get to the 1s and the 3s and the 5s. It might be interesting for some people to look through those. But then also very interesting is going to be how I can plan with this. So being able to sort by the window of opportunity, it's something I'm still working on. There's data in here that you can't see, which is the year. And the year is telling it that it's, for example, October is later than January is later than August and so on. So I'm going to fix the data. This is all a work in progress. But the idea is that you'd be able to click this and you can see, I especially can see, since it's my target list, the objects that are going to be in the window of opportunity in the order that they are. I'm going to create some sort of calendar. I've created some sort of chart. Next, I'm going to create some sort of calendar of when I'm going to attempt to shoot all of these, because it's not just about the window of opportunity, it's also about the priority. If and when I get to the creation of that calendar, if it's something that I can publish, I will publish. Not because I'm trying to tell you what to shoot, but just because, again, I'm sharing some sort of process that at least goes on in my mind. The one thing that is here that you don't have built in here, you can always just hit Control F or Command F. But you can come here and type in, like, I don't know, what do we want to find? LDN 327. So it's not even the beginning of the word. So you can type in any designation. If I've added it that way, then it will come up. So any information that's in here that you're looking for, you can find. One of the fun things is if you want to segment by, I don't know, like a barred spiral galaxy. Yeah, so there's unbarred and barred. I guess barred is a part of unbarred. But you could see those kinds of things if you just want to see like lenticular galaxies. There's just everything that fits into spiral galaxies, which is many of them because I'm very interested in spiral galaxies. It's all there. I'm going to add to this list. I'm going to update information as time goes on. As you can see, it's already very wide, but I think that breaking, I'm actually gonna make it full width so this padding won't be here, but I'm gonna probably add more data to this list and keep updating this. I'm going to continue to update that date so you can see when the last time I've input information is. So at some point I get lazy and I don't do it, which is very likely. You'll see, okay, this is data from 6 months ago. It's not helpful now because some of this is in the past. But as of right now, 4th of August, 2021, most of this information is in the future. We'll see. We'll see. I think some of the stuff from January is not. But again, work in progress. I'm talking to myself here. Nobody even follows me on YouTube, and it's not my intention anyway. Most of it is just for me, and if somebody happens to stumble across this is my workflow for understanding how to record information for the objects that I hope to image one day. And that's all I wanted to share with you. If you want to head over to AstroPhotographyPodcast.com, you can do that. It's also a work in progress. You'll probably see the site go through some phases. Eventually, there's a podcast here. See, this line should not be going through there. I have I've added all of the videos that I have created so far on the YouTube channel. But anyway, that's it for now. I'm going to add on to this site. I have a couple of other plans. It's just a hobby, folks. Please don't get all up in arms if something seems weird. Just a hobby for a guy who knows nothing, aka a beginner's journey, where we are right now. So that's gonna be it for me for today. I'm gonna go pick up the package on the corner, which should be my replacement clip-in filter, which if you saw that video, broke that one. Let's hope I don't break this one, because it's not cheap or easy to get them to send me things from Hong Kong. Until next time, I'll see you.